Welcome back, everybody, to the High School Blitz on Statesman.com, and I'm joined by a gang of our favorite fellas here. Let's start from the very end, from the American-Statesman, Chris Bils, Michael Adams, Thomas T.J. Hitman, from Westlake
Hitman
Jones. And gentlemen, we've got 5 games, and we're going to save the best one for last, and I think you know what the best one is. But let's start from the top. TJ, Regents, Grapevine, Faith.
Yeah, Regents and TAPS, they're an outstanding program under Coach Bryden. They're seeking their 6th state championship, but they've never won in TAPS Division II, which has larger schools. And this year they're in a Division II semifinal against Grapevine Faith Christian. Now Regents, a lot of seniors. Jace Franklin at quarterback is a 3-year starter, a lot of experience. They were impressive last week in beating San Antonio Holy Cross. Now Grapevine Faith Christian, an explosive team, 11-2. They score a lot of points, but Grapevine Faith, they won their last game by 3 points over Midland Christian. Game before that, they beat Dallas Christian in overtime. So they're just squeaking by these last couple of rounds. I think Regents is on fire. I think Regents will play for its first state championship since 2010. I think they handle Grapevine Faith easily.
I agree, Mike.
I'm going to go with Thomas on that. I'm not too familiar with TAPS throughout my career, but you know, you look at a team like Regents who's undefeated, and you go with the favorite. Go with Regents on that, and I agree with Thomas. They're going to be playing for a state championship.
I think Caesar's Palace has them favored too. Chris?
I'll agree with you guys. Stick with the hot hand. Go with Regents.
I'm going to go with the Regents. They only give up 10 points a game. Defense has been carrying that team 13-0. Make it 14-0. Let's go with a game that could be lopsided if the trend continues. West Orange Stark, Giddings. I'm going to start with you, Chris. You tell me.
Yeah, I'm going to go with West Orange Stark here. 8 shutouts on the year. Pair that with a high-powered offense, and I think it's just going to be a little too much.
Michael Adams.
I'm going to go with West Orange Stark too. You can't go against a defending state champion and a team with pedigree. West Orange Sharks played in 6 state title games in its history, and they've won 3 of them, and they've played in 2 straight. They lost to Salina in 2014, and they won last year. So yeah, you got to go with West Orange Stark. That's a pedigree program.
TJ?
Well, there's a lot to like about West Orange Stark. One, they have a quarterback named Jackson Dallas. Come on. In Texas, you can't go wrong with that. 2, they've outscored their opponents 690 to 51. Okay, average that a game, it's 53-4. An awesome team, a dynastic team. Giddings is tough, Giddings is balanced, Giddings is athletic. They just don't have enough juice to hang with West Orange Stark.
But they've got a better mascot.
I will take a Buffalo over
anything.
What's West Orange Stark's mascot? Anyone?
Don't ask me that.
Don't ask. I have no idea.
I'm going to agree with you guys. West Orange Stark's going to win. But let's say something about Giddings. Giddings has won 8 in a row. They've had a fantastic season, a balanced offense. I give them a puncher's chance. I think West Orange Stark just has too many weapons. Let's go with Round Rock, the Woodlands. That's going to be a tough game, guys. I can feel it. I can sense it now. Mike Adams, you start off.
So I saw Westlake play the Woodlands last year. Eric Schmidt, the quarterback for the Woodlands, was the quarterback for that team last year. Mm-hmm. And you know, they gave Westlake a pretty good game. It was a very young team. I knew they were going to be as good as they are right now. They're 13-0. Round Rock's on a roll. You know, they're playing really well right now. But you know, this Eric Schmidt, he's got 61% completion percentage, 913 yards. He's not a flashy quarterback, but he's a good game manager. He was last year. I'm going to go with the Woodlands.
Let's go Chris Bils.
Yeah, unbelievable run for Round Rock. Last-minute win last week. And like TJ said, you can't underestimate the heart of a champion. But the Woodlands, I think they just got a little bit too much offense. Round Rock has had trouble shutting teams down, giving up a lot of points even in these wins. So I think it might be just a little bit too much this time.
That's a good point. TJ?
Well, I called out Michaels to get the over-under on this game, and it's 101 points. Woodlands, now I saw them play back-to-back last week. They beat Bowie 51-32. Round Rock rallied for a 49-45 win over Capel. A lot of offense. The Woodlands, as Michael was saying, Eric Schmidt is a wizard running that zone read. He had almost 200 yards rushing against Bowie, over 200 passing. But the Woodlands has a weakness. They've allowed 71 points in their last 2 games, and we know Round Rock can score points. I think Round Rock will make it close. I think the Woodlands will win, but I think Round Rock tops 40 points. I think they fall a touchdown short.
Not so fast, my friend, as Jimmy the Greek used to say.
That'd be Lee Corso, but go ahead.
Yes.
Lee Corso. Jimmy the Greek said it first.
He said a lot of things.
Round Rock has scored 545 points this year, by far, by almost 100, the most in school history. Mark Reed, I believe in Mark Reed. He pulled off some magic last week to have them win that football game. The Woodlands is a fantastic program. Their last losing season was 2007. They average 48 points. You mentioned how much they score. This is going to be a toss-up game, but I'm going with the big upset. I'm going to take the Dragons minus the points. No, with the points. But either way, I'm taking the Dragons, and they're going to be in the state semifinals next week.
Finals next week.
Let's go. Another surprise team to a lot of us, Dripping Springs.
Yeah.
Richmond Foster. Richmond Foster is a powerhouse. Let's start with you, TJ.
Foster is a powerhouse, and when they dropped into Region 4 during last year's UIL realignment, I think that raised a lot of eyebrows. It made them a favorite in the region. Let's put this in perspective for our fans, the Drip fans. Drip beat Angleton in the second round of the playoffs, 14-11, I believe.
12-11.
12-11 by 1 point. Foster beat Angleton 35-14. They've scored at least 55 points in all 3 of their playoff games. They may have the best receiver in the state, a kid named C.D. Lamb, who's committed to Oklahoma. 81 catches, 1,685 yards, 27 touchdowns. He's a 6'3", 185-pound burner. He's going to be a handful for Dripping Springs. Now, Drip can score. Quarterback Reese Johnson is a dynamic dual threat. I think Dripping will get their points. I don't think they can slow that passing game from Foster. I think Foster wins, but it won't be easy.
Mike.
Yeah, Thomas, I think, read my notes because I had that comparison down in my notes. But this is an interesting tidbit. Dripping Springs, Giddings, and Round Rock all play undefeated teams. Richmond Foster's 13-0. They have some very notable wins. A 52-27 win over Alamo Heights in the second round is one that I circled. That's impressive.
And
Alamo Heights is a good program, and you beat them that bad.
And a district rival of Dripping Springs.
And a Dripping Springs district Springs. They also beat A&M Consolidated, who, as Thomas can attest to with his years at Westlake, that's a pretty traditionally strong program. So those are 2 pretty notable wins. I think Richmond Foster just has way too much.
Yeah.
Chris Bils.
Speaking of Alamo Heights, I was down in San Antonio a few weeks ago for that round 1 game against LBJ, and the Alamo Heights people were just raving about Richmond Foster, and I was like, who is this team? Well, we're about to find out. I think Richmond Foster's just going to have a little bit too much in this game.
You mentioned the receiver, Alex Raymart, the quarterback, 39 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 71.3% of his passes are complete.
Pretty efficient.
But look at Dripping Springs for a minute. There's a team that went 5-5 last year. They're 12-1 this year. When we talk about Coach of the Year at a later date, Galen Zimmerman is a name that we're going to be talking about.
Absolutely. And you don't want to take anything away from Dripping Springs. So it's 12-1 season. There's nothing to balk at. But when you get to this point, you're playing. Every team is good. So and they have. I'm saying they have a shot, but you're up against a pretty strong team. So.
And this, regardless of what happens, this is the best season in Drip history. They've never gone to regional finals. They've never won 12 games in a season before.
Well, guys, do you know what's next? Game of the year? We've said that in October. It wasn't the game of the year. But maybe this time it will be. Lake Travis, Westlake, 7:30, Friday, the Palace on Palmer. Let's start with you, Chris Bils.
Yeah, so last time Westlake obviously blown out without a few of their stars. But the one thing that hasn't changed is the personnel on the Westlake defense. They were good coming in. They've been even better since. But I still think it's the same group going up against the same group. And we learned this past weekend that rematches maybe they're not as hard as you think. I think Lake Travis might do a similar thing. I think it's going to be a lot closer though.
I'm going to guess that Mike Adams has a different opinion.
I do, actually. So, as everyone knows, I have a famous video that's floating around Twitter from last year. But, this is always a good, fun game. I covered 3 of them. It's going to be a full house. The Palace is going to be packed. Student sections are, the action on the sidelines sometimes is a lot more entertaining than the game, and they're going to be rowdy. They're going to be ready to go. I look at this series, and you say that Lake Travis has just dominated it. 9 straight wins, every blowout this year. But, as Chris mentioned, Westlake has 2 key elements back. Sam Ellinger is healthy, and Nakia Watson is also going to be playing in this game, which he didn't the last time.
2 of the best offensive players in the area. 2 of the best offensive players in the area.
Westlake has never had a good running game in the last few years playing Lake Travis. That is going to be your difference maker, and the streak is over. Westlake wins.
And I'm sure that you agree, Mr. Westlake.
Well, not so fast, my friend. Who said that?
Lee Corso.
And the reason I say this is I think the strength of Westlake's defense is their front 7, a dynamite unit. I mean, Levi Jones at linebacker is one of the best playmakers in the state. David Neal, a young sophomore defensive lineman, is coming on, and he may be one of the best defensive linemen in the state in a matter of a year. However, Lake Travis throws the ball. They have Charlie Brewer. He went 12 for 12 last week for what, 243 against Los Fresnos? Lake Travis brings a passing attack that Westlake hasn't seen all season. Even in that game against Lake Travis got out to the early lead. They didn't throw that much. Westlake's secondary hasn't seen anyone like Charlie Brewer. Westlake will score more than 7 points. I do guarantee that. With Sam Ellinger back, Nakia Watson, really good offensive line led by Joe Hieronymus at tackle. They'll score more. I just don't know if they can keep Lake Travis under 40, to be honest. It's a very good Westlake defense. I just don't know about the matchup.
I saw Westlake this weekend. They beat Laredo United 55-15. They're a much better football team they are right now than they were the first time that 49-7.
An aberration.
Aberration, that's a good word. With that said, I like Lake Travis with their defense. Remember these names: Mateo Lopez, William Lasenby, Austin Hiller, dynamic defensive players. I think Lake Travis is going to win on defense, even though I think Westlake's offense, as I said, is much better. But I think the streak's going to be 10.
Thomas raised a good point. If they can keep Lake Travis's offense under 40 points, Westlake wins. I firmly believe that.
You think Westlake will score more than 40?
I think Sam Ellinger has the ability to do that with that offense.
I think the key for Westlake, and believe it or not, in that game against Los Fresnos, Lake Travis gave up some yards on the ground. Los Fresnos early in the game had some success grinding out some yards. If Westlake can get Watson rolling, get some first downs, keep that Lake Travis offense off the clock, that's the recipe for Westlake to win. So that'll be the key. Can Samuel Choa up front for Lake Travis and his buddies up front, can they slow down Watson and give their offense the ball?
And do they have the heart of a champion?
Both these teams have shown that this year.
Yeah.
I think Lee Corso said that too. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us again on Statesman.com on our High School Blitz. I hope you've enjoyed our preview. Next week we're going to come back and tell you how we were right about everything. But until that happens, we all hope your favorite team wins.